Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm George Binns. I'm here with my host, Elliot Margolis, and we have as our guest this evening, Arthur Levine, the kid that never grew up.
That's right.
You got the most marvelous job of going around to all these theme parks and getting rides, and then you have to just write about them.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
And that sounds like fun.
We talked about this before, and I'm happy to be back. One of my most recent adventures is to check out the new Star Wars Galaxy's Edge lands that are coming to both Disneyland in California and Walt Disney World in Florida. It is the theme park story of not just the year, probably the decade. It's big news in the theme park world. So.
Well, it's also big bucks. It's what, $1 billion for each one of them?
That's exactly right. They're building two 14-acre lands on the East Coast and the West Coast that'll be virtually identical, each valued, estimated at about $1 billion each. So we're talking about some major investment on Disney's part.
Yeah, I noticed in the paper recently they've announced that the ticket prices are going up for the rest of the year.
Predictably.
Yes.
And it's a simple case of supply and demand, George.
Yeah.
The demand is going to be outrageous for people who want to check out Star Wars, and so they've raised prices.
Yeah. Is the location in California going to be at Disneyland itself?
Yes.
Because where are they going to find that many acres?
Yeah. They had to carve out some backstage areas and sort of steal some of the front of the park area to make this happen. They're quite landlocked in California, but they were able to find 14 acres.
Wow.
They have much more flexibility in Florida. But
And when is this going to open?
And in Florida, it's going to be at Disney's Hollywood Studios, by the way. So it's going to be a staggered opening. It's going to open first in California the end of May, and then in Florida, it'll open at the end of August.
See, I'm planning to go next year with my grandchildren to Florida, to Disney World. And saying that the price went up does not make me very happy, I have to tell you.
It's going up right now, so even if you went today, you'd still be paying for it. Yes. Yeah.
It's expensive enough as it is.
It's not inexpensive, however, if you compare it to things like going to see a football game or going to see a Broadway show, I think you get pretty good value for your money. I mean, it's a lot of money, but you're there for an entire day getting these incredible experiences. So
why don't you tell us a little bit about what experiences we're going to get?
All right. At Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, if you don't mind, I think I'd like to give a little bit of context and explain why I think this is the story of the decade. When Walt Disney first introduced Disneyland in 1955, it was sort of revolutionary. Up until that point, we had amusement parks like Canopy Lake, or folks who have been here a long time may remember the amusements at Revere Beach or Salisbury Beach. These were amusement parks, and they're just sort of a hodgepodge of thrilling rides, roller coasters, and what have you. Disney had a completely different idea. He came from the world of movies and animation, and he brought cinematic elements to his park. He brought storytelling elements. And so you weren't just going to ride a ride, you were going to experience an attraction that would tell a story. And even the park itself, he sort of built it using cinematic principles. You have a long shot, a medium shot, a close-up. You walk down Main Street, USA, and you see the castle in the distance. It's all very well thought out and very organized like a movie, like a cinematic experience. And the rides themselves, as I said, you're not just going on a ride through a dark house. You're going to fly alongside Peter Pan or fly off into space on Space Mountain. Through the years, the attractions became much more sophisticated. And I can give you an example. In the mid to late 80s, Disney actually built a Star Wars-themed ride already. It's called Star Tours. And it's been there for a few decades now. It was one of the first major motion simulator ride. So it uses flight simulator principles to simulate a ride blasting off into space.
What do you mean by simulating the ride? Did they actually twist you around or something?
Yeah, it's actually based on a flight simulator. What pilots use to train to fly airplanes. Yeah. So you get into a motion base that has degrees of freedom. It can move left, right, and pitch and yaw and do all these different things. And in the case of a pilot learning how to fly, they're doing takeoffs and landings, and they have it's like they're looking out the cockpit, but they're really looking at a video monitor, and the flight simulator moves in tandem with the projected imagery that they're seeing. Well, Disney and other theme park designers have used this technology to create theme park attractions, including Star Tours. So you sit in a giant motion base with a lot of other people, and it's like you're on a spaceship. And you look out the window of your spaceship, and it looks like you're blasting off into space. Of course, you're not really moving more than a few inches in any direction. So it's a highly sophisticated attraction. But it's located in Tomorrowland at Disneyland, and it is across the plaza from a Buzz Lightyear ride. So there's sort of a mishmash of rides in this general Tomorrowland area. Well, in 2010, Disney's chief rival, Universal, they have the Universal parks like Universal Orlando in Florida and Universal Studios Hollywood in California. They did something quite different in Florida. They took the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. They opened the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which is based on the Harry Potter films. And instead of having kind of a mishmash of different attractions, they opened up an area that is completely focused on just one theme, Harry Potter. So everything in this Wizarding World of Harry Potter is themed to Harry Potter, and this was revolutionary because it transported you to a different world. It was as if you walked into the world of the Harry Potter movies and left the real world behind. The restaurants there only serve food that would be served in Hogsmeade or different locations from the Harry Potter movies. If you go to a souvenir store, you're not going to be able to buy a King Kong T-shirt. You can't even really buy a Harry Potter T-shirt. But what you can buy are things that might be for sale and again in Hogsmeade. Yeah. So you can buy robes and magic wands and things like that. Well, this was incredibly well received and kind of placed Universal almost on even footing with Disney. And Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is sort of Disney's answer to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. So in much the same way that what Universal has done with the Wizarding World, Disney is doing with Galaxy's Edge. You walk into Galaxy's Edge, and they've recreated this planet called Batuu. And the real world just kind of fades away, and you have been transported to this other galaxy. And so again, everything there is beholden to the story. Everything is in story. You won't find any Mickey Mouse T-shirts. You won't find any batteries for your cell phone or whatever. It's only things that you would expect to find if you were really on the planet Batuu. So where Disney will take you is to a place called Black Spire Outpost. And this is a once thriving trading port. But with the advent, as the backstory goes, with the advent of light speed travel, it's been made irrelevant. It used to be kind of a way station on the outer edge of the galaxy where traders would go to refuel and to restock, but it's been made a bit irrelevant in the age of very fast space travel. So it's now populated by a bunch of sort of colorful characters, pirates, rogues, and this is the place that you'll be visiting when you go to Galaxy's Edge. So you'll see X-wing fighters and TIE fighters and spaceships from the starfighters that you recognize from the movies, just sort of casually parked, and you'll see a bazaar-like marketplace where you can buy things to eat or get things to drink or shop for items. And then there are going to be two major attractions that you'll be able to experience at Galaxy's Edge. One is Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, the famous Millennium Falcon ship that Han Solo famously piloted. And the other one is called Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. So these are the two attractions that you'll be able to experience.
Now, I've been to Universal and Disney World, and on some of the rides, there's a sign. And the sign says that you really shouldn't go on this if you have a heart condition or if you're pregnant. Well, I may not I'm not pregnant, but I mean, is this going to have that kind of a sign too? Is it that kind of a ride that if you're pregnant or if you have a heart condition, you shouldn't really go on it?
So I got to take a backstage tour of the Disneyland version of Galaxy's Edge at the time that I visited, which was a few weeks ago. It was an active construction site. Nothing was open, and we were, of course, accompanied by folks from Disney. At the time that we visited, and subsequently, they haven't really divulged a lot of the finer details and a lot of the operational aspects of how they're going to be running these lands. So it's a little unclear exactly what the height requirements are and how aggressive and how thrilling the rides might be. My guess is that they will be mildly thrilling, but that they're not going to, they're going to be going for a family audience. So I think the height requirements will be fairly low. They probably will have those signs because I think they put them up for virtually every attraction.
Lawyers require it.
Yeah, for insurance reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they're going to be overly aggressive. I can tell you what I know about the two attractions, and that will give you a sense of what people can expect and what they might experience. But again, I don't know exactly what it's going to be like.
Well, when you get into some of these experience kinds of rides, it depends on your attitude, how well you can go with the flow of the scene. And a couple of ones that have surprised me, there's one of these scenes where, I don't know whether it's in Disneyland or something, but there's a big animated dog on the screen, and the dog sneezes. And they've went to the extent of having a fan in the seat back in front of you, so when the dog sneezes, the fan comes on, you get this blast of air, and they had a little atomizer, so it sprayed you too.
Right.
And people,
Yeah.
Those
are called 4D effects.
Yeah, and you can get into this, and you mentioned that the technology is from flight simulators, and there's a story going around that years ago the simulators were so good that some guy was doing his annual refresher, and they went through a crash simulation, and he walked out in the parking lot and had a heart attack. So that you can make these things extremely realistic,
Right.
kind of thing.
Right.
And I've been in a couple where you're flying down the Grand Canyon, and all of a sudden you see people in the next row in front of you leaning into the curve and all that.
Right.
So you can get into these things very quickly. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about the Millennium Falcon ride, if that's okay.
Yeah.
That is a motion simulator ride, but it is, I believe, the world's first totally interactive motion simulator ride, and that is, instead of it being sort of a passive experience where you sit down in a seat and you buckle yourself in like Star Tours, and everybody kind of has the same experience, what's going to happen at the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run ride is there will be 6 crew members. You'll be one of 6 crew members. There are 2 pilots, 2 gunners, and 2 engineers. And you'll sit in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon, and you'll have all the controls that you see Han Solo and Chewbacca sort of plugging away at, they're all there, and they actually work. They're going to be responsive, and they will respond to whatever. You'll be in charge of the experience. You'll actually be flying it, and you'll be assigned a mission, and you'll have to gun down the enemy, and if you get into trouble and you take on enemy fire, the engineers are going to have to get the systems back up and running. No two rides will be the same. And again, as far as I know, I believe this will be the first truly interactive motion simulator attraction. Should be incredible. I didn't get to experience it because, as I said, it wasn't open. I did get to see the Millennium Falcon, however, and it is spectacular. For people who are fans of the film, and again, it's been going on for decades now, they're just going to be in awe. You kind of round a corner, and then the ship kind of reveals itself, and it's full scale. I mean, it's over 100 feet wide. It's 30 feet off the ground, and it's slightly beat up, as you would expect it to be, because it's been through years of service and hard labor, and it's just an incredible sight to see.
So inside this thing, there are different control rooms, because you're only talking 6 people at a time.
Yeah.
So you'll go in and you get assigned to a simulated control room.
Yeah, you don't actually enter the Millennium Falcon itself. You enter, I mean, what's really a show building, but is supposedly a docking bay. Yeah. And so you kind of go behind the Millennium Falcon, and yes, you'll be broken down into eventually groups of 6, but there must be probably, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 different cockpits inside this building. You think you're the only one that's on the Millennium Falcon, but spoiler alert,
each one's a separate simulator,
Right.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, that's a don't miss kind of a thing.
Yeah, and as amazing as this attraction is, Disney is playing up the other one, Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, even more, calling it epic and groundbreaking. Again, I did not get to experience it, but what I know about it, it's going to be quite long. I think probably the Millennium Falcon ride a typical theme park ride lasts 3.5, 4 minutes, and I fully expect that that's what this will be. But Rise of the Resistance is going to be you're going to be on multiple ride vehicles and have sort of multiple experiences that will all be part of this one attraction. And again, Disney didn't reveal exactly how long it's going to be, only to say that it's going to be very long. But I think it's probably going to be maybe 15 minutes. And again, there's going to be some sort of motion simulator experience that will be part of it, where you get onto a spaceship, and I think you're going to be standing on this one, and you're going to blast off into space, but very quickly, the First Order is going to, they're the bad guys, the enemies. The First Order, who, in the timeline of Galaxy's Edge, the First Order recently arrived on the planet Batuu. And this takes place, by the way, for Star Wars geeks during the current trilogy. So you'll run into characters like Poe and Finn and BB-8 and other characters from the current trilogy. So you'll be on the spaceship. You're going to blast off into space for what's supposed to be some sort of benign adventure, and all of a sudden the First Order traps you in a tractor beam, and you get transported to a Star Destroyer. And we're talking about a massive building. I mean, it's probably the size of 2 football fields, or 1 football field anyway. It's just huge. And so I don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but there's a massive screen, and I think there's going to be live actors, and you're going to be taken prisoner by the First Order and sent to a holding cell. And somehow, I think you're going to come face to face with Kylo Ren. Somehow you're going to be whisked away by the Resistance, who are encamped on Batuu and trying to battle the First Order. At some point, you're going to be placed onto trackless ride vehicles, which is a relatively new innovation in the industry. I think it's going to be one of the first times that we'll see it in this country. So these are ride vehicles that are not on a track but are kind of computer programmed to move through a space. And among the things that will happen that Disney has talked about is you're going to go under these giant walking AT-AT walkers that are people who are familiar with Star Wars will know what these are. So your ride vehicle will go underneath these I don't know, 30-foot animatronic creatures. So should just be an amazing experience. And again, Disney is saying that as incredible as the Millennium Falcon ride sounds, this will be even more epic.
Well, sounds like something I'm not going to miss when I go down there next year.
Yeah. The only problem, though, Elliot, is you and everybody else won't want to miss it. How Disney is going to handle the crowds remains a bit of an open question. As I was saying before we started the show tonight, the demand for this is just going to be incredible.
Yeah, the first couple of years especially, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the lines are going to be, as epic as the attractions are, I think the lines are probably going to be equally epic.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see exactly how many people show up and how they handle it and how long people are going to have to wait.
One of the things that I remember from Star Wars is the robots that walked around and did things.
The droids.
The droids.
Yeah.
And for the movie, there were people inside a mechanism, and they acted like a droid. And I noticed from the literature that you passed around a while back, there's going to be a lot of in-character people running around the place. Are they going to have any real droids that are real robots that are programmed?
I don't know what you mean by real droids, but there will be droids at Galaxy's
a robot
Edge.
that goes around under program control as opposed to somebody inside a tin can suit.
Yes, there will be programmed droids that you'll experience on the attractions, in the shops, and you'll actually be able to build your own droid. They're going to have one of the places will be Droid Depot, and you'll be able to go in and custom make your own droid. It could be an R series or it could be a BB series, and there'll be people there to assist you, and you can choose the color and the size and the characteristics that you want.
You take it home with you?
And you absolutely can take it home with you.
Yeah.
And you can it'll come with a remote control that you can program it. It'll also, I believe, at least some of them, Disney has this app. It's called the Play Disney Parks app. That while you're waiting in these epic lines, it gives you something to do, you and your family or your friends. There are different games that you can play that interact with the environment around you or the attraction you happen to be in. They're kind of moving us up to the next level at Galaxy's Edge, in that if you've got this app downloaded to your phone, when you walk into Galaxy's Edge, it's going to go into Star Wars mode, your app. And you'll be able to do things like hack a droid. If you see a droid sort of walking past you, you'll be able to use your app to hack it, get into its memory banks, find out what kind of information it has, and you'll be able to capture that intel. You'll also be able to decode messages that are encrypted on packages or on the walls of the queues that you're in. So there'll be all kinds of things that you'll be able to do with this app, and you, whether your allegiance is to the First Order or to the Resistance, you can kind of play the part and maybe share your intel with others who are like-minded, and it's kind of like the liberal conservative thing with you guys. I don't know.
Yeah, because one step way beyond the Captain Midnight decoder rings, right?
Way beyond.
Yeah. That's neat. Yeah.
It really sounds fascinating.
I mentioned before that everything will be in stories. So if you want to go get a hamburger or French fries or a Coke, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
If you want to get blue milk, which is something that is featured in the Star Wars films, you'll be able to purchase blue milk for the first time at Galaxy's Edge. It's going to come in 2 flavors. It'll be some kind of frozen concoction that that will come in 2 different flavors and is actually made from non-dairy products, even though it's called blue milk. If you another thing that's just sounded amazing to me, at the entrance to the marketplace, they're going to have a kiosk called Ronto Roasters. And Ronto Roasters will have, a Ronto is this camel-like pack animal that's been in the Star Wars movies, this very large animal. It will actually be on a spit, and a droid will be sort of spinning the spit, and there'll be smoke coming out, and you'll smell this wonderful aromas, but you'll see this giant, very strange-looking beast on the spit. And right next to it, you'll be able to purchase a Ronto wrap. And a Ronto wrap, as it turns out, is actually pork meat.
Okay.
And it has a spicy sausage and I think some cabbage slaw in there in a pita bread. But this is just one example of what they've done is they've taken earthbound food ingredients and sort of recombined them and in creative ways and done unusual things with the way that they look and the colors and unexpected taste. So it'll look like it's otherworldly. Yeah. For example, this Ronto wrap. So all of the restaurants will have these very odd-looking items, some of which will reference things in the Star Wars universe, but nothing that looks like anything that we have experienced here on Earth.
Yeah. Sounds like a must-see to me.
Yeah.
But, you know, as we mentioned early on, well, before the show started, 30 minutes goes by pretty quickly.
Have we eaten up 30 minutes?
Believe it or not, we've just about eaten up 30 minutes. So if you have one last thing to say, knock yourself out, but don't take too long doing it.
Well, I'll just say, I don't think I have to sell this. Star Wars is probably one of, if maybe the most popular, certainly the most popular film franchise, I think, ever, and one of the most famous intellectual properties. Disney has a home run here, I think. There's a reason why they spent $1 billion on this, because it's worth it and because they know people are going to come. So for folks out there who are thinking of visiting a theme park, you've got some incredible incredible adventures ahead of you.
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to ask people to do is not go next February vacation, because I'm going, and I don't want the long lines.
There you go.
But this was really very informative, fun. It sounds like a great take. We appreciate you coming on.
It's my pleasure.
And maybe after we've experienced this, we'll have you back.
Sounds good.
All right, great. I hope you enjoyed this, and go down to Florida or California anytime after, would you say, May in July or something?
Late May in California and late August.
Late August.
In Florida.
And enjoy this new experience. Thanks for watching.